Delivering remarks now on investing in America. He's doing this at Cross Hall, and we want to listen in.
We're thrilled to welcome to the White House dozens of the world top leaders of all kinds, but in particular business leaders. And since the election, the companies represented in this room have collectively announced more than $2 trillion in new investments, and we have a total of close to $8 trillion all told. And there's never been anything like that in this country. We've never had anything close. I would say if you looked at the last administration, probably for 4 years they did maybe less than one. And we've done almost 8. I would say we'll be above 8 in a period of 2 months. So something happened. I think two things happened. November 5th happened. And November 5th gave you tariffs, intelligently used tariffs and various other forms of incentive. But it's really amazing. There's never been, I don't think there's ever been anything like this anywhere in the world. Together, we're going to bring back the most beautiful words. I always say made in the USA, the most beautiful words. We're going to have made in the USA like we haven't had before in a long time. In addition to the business leaders whose companies I will mention in just a moment, we have some great people, great senators. Marcia, where are you? Where are you, Martha? Marcia, thank you very much. Marcia Blackburn, Bill Cassidy. Bill, thank you, Bill. Ashley Moody. Ashley, thank you. And John Husted. John, thank you very much. And Representatives Byron Donalds, Buddy Carter, Rob Whitman, Mark Alford, Mike Rogers, Richard Hudson, and Abe Hamadeh. Thank you all very much. We have Mike Kehoe, governors, Jim Pillen, Kevin Stitt, Mike Dunleavy, along with numerous other members of my cabinet, and I want to thank you all for being here. How come my cabinet has such good locations? You should have given them up to the business leaders. We want their money, you know. They have very good locations. I'm not surprised. 100 days ago this week, we inherited the wreckage of 4 years of economic disaster under the previous administration. It was an economic disaster. It was a disaster at the border like nobody had ever seen before. And you probably see we've closed up the border 99.999%, meaning 3 people got in. 3. As opposed to hundreds of thousands of people coming in on a monthly basis, millions of people actually. There are periods where we had millions and millions of people pouring in on a monthly basis. We had 3 people. They buried companies in crippling regulations, waged war on American energy, pushed massive tax hikes, and gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. In Biden's final year, the United States had the worst trade deficit ever recorded, and we lost 106,000 manufacturing jobs. Other than that, he's done a fantastic job. But now all that is changing, and all that's changing very fast because we finally have the president who wants to put our country first. You have a president who believes in America first. In the first quarter GDP numbers just out today, core GDP, now we're removing distortions from imports, inventories, and government spending, was up plus 3%. But this is Biden's economy because we took over on January 20th. And I think you have to get us a little bit of time to get moving. But this is the Biden economy. But we still had and we've had a lot of things happen since November 5th that helped this economy, because it was indicating a strong private sector growth, and it only started after November 5th. The private sector started really heating up after the election. Even though I wasn't there, people knew what we were going to be doing, and the private sector growth was actually very good. Very importantly, gross domestic investment was up an incredible 22%, which they had never seen before. Every new investment, every new factory, and every new job created is a sign of strength in the American economy and a declaration of confidence in America's future. We really do. We've never seen anything like this. Even Samsung, whose name isn't mentioned here, but I heard that they announced this morning that they're going to be building a very big plant because they want to be able to beat the tariffs. It's the only way to beat them. The entire Trump economic agenda is about making it easier to do business in America, to create jobs in America, to hire American workers, and to build your factories here in America, not in China or any other country. And we're dealing with many, many countries right now, I will say. And I think I can say for Scott and for Howard and for some of the people that are dealing, there are too many to handle. I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to hire some of the people running these companies. Boy, would you do a good job. I could have Jensen negotiate. He'd blow my people away, wouldn't you? I think even Howard would say that. Howard would say, we'll take them. He'd blow them away. He would make deals. One deal would be the end. That would be it. But we've terminated the Green New scam. It was a scam. And halted tens of billions of dollars of money, wasteful deficit spending. It was like throwing money right out the window. And in the coming weeks, we'll pass the largest tax cuts in American history. And I think even more so, we'll be doing things for business like you've never seen before. You saw it in a little smaller version at the beginning of our last term. You know, we had the most successful 4 years that any president has ever had. The stock market was up 88%. The other markets were up almost 100%. And that's despite COVID and all the crazy things happening. But we had a tremendous 4 years. We've given credit for that, actually. But our big, beautiful bill, as I call it, our big, beautiful bill, we may name it that, actually, will include 100% expensing retroactive to January 20th. So that's all the way back to just about the beginning of the year. So expensing 1 year, you take a deduction 1 year, so you can build your factories right now, essentially almost tax-free, if you think about it. Nobody's ever been given that. And we're going to make that expensing for a 4-year period at a full 100%. So last time we made it 1 year, and you had deductions. You'd do from 100% to 80 to 60 to 40 to 20 to Zippo. And now what we're going to do is we're going to keep it at that level, and we're going to have it for 4 years. So I believe that was one of the reasons that we had such unbelievable growth. Also, we allowed you to bring money back from outside of the country. It was impossible. You had to have 15 different law firms representing you. It was so complicated. And worse was that the tax rate was 65%. I lowered the rate substantially, but still a lot. You know, we shouldn't take your money just to, you know, hold you hostage, right? So we lowered it to a reasonable amount, and we took in trillions of dollars, came back. Apple brought in a tremendous amount of money. A lot of the companies here brought in a lot of money, and the businesses represented today clearly understand that if you build your factory in the United States, your tariff rate is 0, and you have other advantages too, and not the least of which is what I just said, having to do with the bill. Now, we have to get that bill approved, so call your local representative, please, and make sure that we get it approved, because I don't want to talk too early, but we're doing well with the Republican Congress. We have the Senate is doing great, and the House is doing great. John Thune has been spectacular. Mike Johnson has been spectacular. Marcia, you're in there working very hard and doing well. What do you think? Are we going to get it passed? We have to. Marcia, we don't get it passed, I'm blaming you. We have to. We have to get it passed. We will. I think we will. But I don't think we'll have any Democrat votes. If we don't get it passed, what would happen is your taxes go up 68%. Think of that. And we may not get one vote because they just vote against. It's Trump derangement syndrome, or maybe it's just they hate Republicans, or they hate what we're doing because they've lost their confidence. They've totally lost their confidence.
All right, so you are listening to the president. Here he is in Cross Hall, and he is addressing majority of his cabinet members as well as other high-level officials, really on the state of the economy and his plans for the future, especially in terms of building up the manufacturing sector in the United States. He did, again, you heard him there, blame former President Joe Biden for the state of the economy, and he decided decided to use a GDP number that removes the distortions from imports and inventories and government spending. And in his notation there, he says it's up 3%, but again, reiterated that this is Biden's economy. We didn't take over until late January. He said he came in with the worst trade deficit and credited Biden with losing over 106,000 manufacturing jobs. And then he went on to encourage cabinet members and those in Congress to get this tax bill passed. He doesn't think he's going to get any help there from Democrats, so urging all Republicans to do so and thanking John Thune and Mike Johnson in the process. For more on this, I do want to bring in ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang for more. So, look, Selena, there's been a lot of talk here about how the president would react to this GDP numbers today, the shrinking of the economy overall, really for the first time since the pandemic. And we've heard him say time and time again, he's really pointing the finger at Joe Biden, and he continues to do so today.
Yeah, Kana, the president taking the same strategy all day, which is to put the blame on his predecessor. He earlier today said that the stock market is former President Biden's, not his. He's also saying that these GDP numbers are to blame because of former President Biden. That's despite most economists agreeing that what we're seeing here is a result of the president's tariffs. You have a lot of companies that were stockpiling, making a surge of imports, trying to avoid the tariffs from going into place. A lot of businesses are also on edge. They're in pause mode or they're declining. The current U.S.-China trade war is devastating for so many small businesses and farmers who are caught in the middle when you've got 145% tariffs for goods coming from China into this country and then 125% tariffs for goods from here going into China. Now, that primarily squeezes farmers. So many agricultural products being shipped to China every single year. And actually, just moments ago, I spoke to the Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, here at the White House, and I asked her if the president, if they're considering bailing out farmers, helping them out like they did during the president's first term. She said she hopes that it doesn't come to that, but she says if it does, the president is prepared to step in and close the gap. But Kana, earlier today, the president also made a rare acknowledgement that Americans may have to pay more and do with less because of his tariffs. He made a comment that kids may have to have $2 instead of $30 and that those dolls may cost a couple bucks more. Kana.
Yeah, and you also pointed out there, Selena, that in his notation that things might be a little bit harder, that he's sort of insinuating here that some of these goods from China aren't really necessities. However, we know there's a lot of American businesses that certainly rely on goods from China. I also want to bring in Matthew McGuire, foreign policy and international development expert and former executive director of the World Bank Group. So again, Matthew, we were just listening to the president here. He's addressing some cabinet members, and he's also again, really blaming Biden for the state of the economy. He can't sort of seem to shift away from that. But what is your analysis of that? When does the economy become President Donald Trump's responsibility?
I always just like to go to the data and look at the data. And the data tells us that in the fourth quarter of last year, the economy grew by 2.4%. This time it shrunk in the first quarter of him being here. The stock market last year went up over 20%. This year, in his first quarter, it's down 8%. So it's very rare to see a reversal of that sort. It's very clear to most independent observers this is a result of his trade war. I would just mention one or two other things. He talks about jobs a fair amount, and that's really what matters most for Americans. But if you look at the history, in his first term, about 5 million jobs were created. Under President Biden, about 17 million were created. Not close. The key was that President Biden focused on multiple sectors and didn't narrow his entire economic policy just down to manufacturing, which doesn't work for the bulk of Americans over time.
Interesting. We certainly know that the technology sector has really been boosting the stock market as well, and we've been seeing evidence of that in this meeting here. So we'll continue to watch this, and we'll be coming back to both of you, Matthew and Selena. Thank you.